In this video, I'm gonna walk you through 13 things I wish I knew before I started my career in marketing. Because marketing is one of the best careers out there, not just now, but it's also predicted to just keep growing in the future. For example, the digital marketing software market alone is predicted to have a compound annual growth rate of 14.1%. And pretty much every other area of marketing, whether it's digital marketing or software, analytics, or anything like that, well, they all show pretty much the same trends in the right direction. Basically, this just means that marketing is here to stay, and it's only getting bigger and better. That's why in this video, I'm going to share with you some of the best pieces of business, marketing, and life advice that I've ever received when it comes to starting and having a really profitable and thriving career in the marketing industry. I'll help you avoid some of the most common mistakes and minefields and pitfalls, and I'll share exactly what you need to get started in marketing today. So let me show you how it's done. All right, so maybe you're just thinking about starting a career in marketing, or you're considering or pursuing a marketing degree, or maybe you're already in marketing and you're trying to figure out what you need to do in order to take your career to the next level. Whatever the case, you're in the right place. So let me kick things off with probably the number one question I get asked most frequently, which is, do you need a marketing degree? Here's the short answer. If you want to get started with a career in marketing, you don't technically need a marketing degree. Unlike being a doctor or a lawyer or a pilot, where there's certain training and certain certifications, qualifications, and tests you need to pass in order to practice medicine or practice law or fly an airplane, well, with marketing, these don't apply. They simply don't exist. Now, traditionally, and certainly way more so in the past, a degree was used to sort of evaluate and analyze and compare different prospects for a job. For example, if two people apply for a position and on paper, they basically look pretty much identical in regards to their experience and their qualifications and so on, but one has a degree and the other doesn't have a degree, well, the edge is going to go to the person with the degree. But things are changing, and in many cases, they've already changed. And some companies, especially the more forward-thinking companies, are starting to accept different levels of experience in exchange or in lieu of a degree. You see, what's important to remember is that what companies are really looking for is that you actually know what you're doing. So experience is good, but a degree can act sort of in place of that if you haven't got experience yet. I mean, just take a look at this graph.
Look at this graph!
You see, according to the APLU, the Association of Public and Land Grant Universities, those with a degree can expect to earn quite a bit more over their careers. But what many of these studies fail to take into consideration is that if you're planning on doing your own thing, starting your own marketing agency or becoming a digital marketing consultant or doing social media marketing on your own or anything like that, well, then a degree is pretty much useless. That is, unless you're the kind of person who needs that structured learning environment to really sort of sink your teeth into the material. But even then, even if you go through a traditional kind of learning experience, you're still going to need to spend a significant amount of time on your own outside of class, after school, before school, studying marketing on your own, because this is where the bulk of your learning is going to come into play. Now, an important note here, and full disclosure, I do have a marketing degree, and while I personally found that it was useful for me, the bulk of the success that I have came from doing studying before school, after school, and more importantly, continuing to study for the years and years after I got my degree in the first place. Okay, next point, pick yourself. We all have those moments in our lives that we can remember absolutely perfectly because they were so important, so profound, and so powerful that they're basically just baked into our memories. For me, one of those moments was when I first read this article by Seth Godin back in 2011. Long story short, I was in a position of trying to figure out what I needed to do to succeed, what action steps I could take next, and really just trying to put the pieces together for how to build the career that I wanted. Anyway, those words, that pick yourself line of the article, for some reason just seemed to jump right off the page and smack me in the face like a cold, hard tomato. I mean, pick yourself. Of course, it made sense. After all, no one was coming to save me. No one was coming to help me. It was my life. It was my responsibility. And therefore, it was also my opportunity. Up until that point, I was basically leaving my success up to external circumstances, up to other people and other potential opportunities that I was hoping were going to come my way. But I knew if I really wanted to succeed in marketing, I was going to need to take full ownership of my career and start making a plan to master my own marketing. Okay, next tip. Marketing is one of those things that takes a minute to learn but a lifetime to master. For example, my definition of marketing is communicating value to your customers. And the way that you do that is by first understanding your customers, your ideal market that you're trying to serve, and their pains and problems and fears and frustrations, and then working to actively communicate and clarify your business, your offer, and your message in a way that positions you as the logical and ideally the only solution to their problems. Yep, that's basically marketing. But of course, it's way deeper than that, which is why the key to succeeding in marketing is to understanding the basics, but then knowing full well that you're going to need to spend the bulk of your career learning and studying and applying all of the future lessons that you can get from this amazing industry. It's not like learning something like learning how to tie your shoe, which once you've got, you pretty much got. Rather, it's an ongoing and a progressive field that keeps coming up with new information and new studies and new research. After all, it's all based around people, and people are kind of confusing. In fact, even a quick Google search for the term marketing brings up 2,320,000,000 listings. That's a lot of stuff. So the key then is understanding that if you want to make a dent in this industry, a little bit of learning and a whole lot of practice are going to be required here. Which leads me perfectly to my next point, which is practice makes progress. Watching myself on video is still easily one of the most uncomfortable and least enjoyable things that I can do. Especially when the video is, say, 5 years old and filmed in the corner of my office with a video camera that I borrowed from a friend.
So why do so many businesses neglect, ignore, or completely write off marketing as a waste of time and money?
But that's also part of the fun, to know that nobody is born an expert in marketing. And so accepting this and committing to the journey and investing the time and the money and the energy to studying this field, well, those are the real secrets to success. One of my favorite Chinese proverbs says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And this is how I feel about marketing, and actually most things in general. You see, you just have no idea that when you get started today, how far you're going to be able to go in 1 or 3 or 5 or 10 years. I mean, that time's gonna pass anyway, so you might as well make the most of it. The next thing then is, with all of these different areas that you could dive into, well, where should you even start with marketing? Which leads me perfectly to my next point, different strokes for different folks. You see, one of the best parts about marketing is that it is such an incredibly deep and diverse field and industry. There are so many different areas of marketing and so many different segments and subsegments and topics and niches and all of that. There is definitely something for you, and probably more than one thing. For example, there's SEO, or search engine optimization, where you optimize websites to appear higher in search engines. There's PPC, known as pay-per-click advertising, which also puts ads on those same search engines or does it through other social media channels like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, LinkedIn ads, basically anything with ads. Speaking of social media, well, there's an entire field around social media marketing, and then you get to choose which platforms you want to specialize in, whether Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or TikTok or Pinterest or YouTube, whatever. But you can't just do social media, you need content for social media, which is all about content marketing. And you could create long-form content, short-form content, audio, video, text-based content. Basically anything that delivers a message is some kind of content marketing. One of my preferred forms of content, aside of course from video, is email marketing, in which case it opens up another entirely new field about autoresponders and broadcasts and automation and segmentation, behavioral dynamics, and all kinds of fancy stuff. And of course, if you're an incredibly analytical or logical or rational-minded person, well, there's analytics-based marketing and metrics and tracking and reports and goals and KPIs, which stand for key performance indicators. Now here's the thing, you do not need to know everything about marketing in order to get started. You simply need to pick an area that you find interesting and then follow your curiosity from there. Are you a more analytical person or a more creative person? Let me know in the comments below. But here's my best and completely non-scientific advice to help you choose the best area of marketing for you to get started with. My advice here is simply to follow your curiosity. You see, when I first got started in marketing, I didn't even know what marketing was. In fact, it was my wife's recommendation that, hey, you should do marketing, that kind of led me into this field. And the deeper down the rabbit hole I got, well, the more excited and more kind of obsessed I became with this industry. My first step was building websites because I thought, all right, well, a lot of people are online, I should probably make a website for people to find me, find my clients. Shortly after building that website, I realized that nobody could find it. So I started to learn about SEO, search engine optimization, to get people to actually find the website so they could hire me and find my clients. Once I realized just how powerful that was though, I wanted more. So I started looking into social media as a way to get even more traffic, more attention, and more eyeballs on the business. Well, that led to running ads, which led to email marketing, which led to all kinds of different content marketing, starting with blogging, doing podcasts, moving into video marketing, and it just continued to grow and evolve from there. The thing is, with so many different areas of marketing, there is no one that's better than any others. There's simply the one that you're going to find most interesting, and the more interesting you find it, the more passionate you become about it, the better you're going to do. So with that said, well, let's talk next about study time. Now I appreciate using a term like study time doesn't make it sound very fun or very exciting. That is until you realize that the time and the energy that you invest in learning marketing is going to pay off massively in the future. This is the reason that today, a decade after I first got started in marketing, I still study every single day. I read books, I listen to podcasts, I take courses, I go to seminars, I attend conferences, I hire coaches and mentors and consultants, anything I can do to keep good information coming in. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, when I was first going to school, I used to study before class and after class, sometimes even during class. Sounds weird to say I studied during class. But the reality is that you have to take ownership of your career, of your knowledge, of your learning, of your education, because nobody's coming to save you. But another great thing about studying and about learning marketing is that there are a ton of amazing resources available, either for free, like on this YouTube channel, or available for very inexpensive. Many companies, like Google, even have free training courses to help get you started. On that note, let's talk about what's required to learn marketing next. A buddy of mine made this post recently, and I thought it was really good, so let me break it down for you. Essentially, in order to succeed today, in order to learn anything, including marketing, all you really need is a Kindle or some kind of access to a book. Now, of course, you could buy a paperback book, you could even use the public library, which is usually free, but a Kindle overall is going to be probably one of the best investments. You might be able to even buy one used or borrow one from a friend, but you're able to get access to an absolute ton of information, more than you could ever even hope to consume in your lifetime. Next, a mobile phone. This is going to enable you to make calls, to send text, probably even has internet access, which is going to allow you to connect with other people, with potential employers, as well as for people to reach out to you. Next, you need something to write with. This is because taking notes and writing down information is incredibly important. Now, fortunately, a pen and a paper, they work just fine. Next, we've got Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook accounts. Of course, you're also free to use TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever other kind of social media that you find most valuable. The beauty is they're free, they're relatively easy to learn, and pretty much anyone that you want to connect with is available on at least one of these different social media platforms. Finally, a few $100s a month to invest in your education, in training, in courses, in books, in seminars, essentially in anything that you can afford. What's important to know here is that all of these costs total are probably around $1,000 or less. And in fact, that monthly cost could be even lower if you're getting free books or if you're buying Kindle books at say $10 a book and you're reading 1 or 2 a week. We're talking about like $40 to $80 a month in education. Okay. With that said, let's move on to some marketing strategy advice that I think will serve you well. The number one most important thing to understand and to remember in marketing is that it's all about the customer. Period. As I said earlier in the video, my definition of marketing is communicating value to the customer. Now, the keyword here is, of course, customer, also known as target market or market. Understanding your market is so incredibly important and foundational to marketing in general that the word market is baked right into the word marketing itself, which should tell you something. Everything you do, everything you say, everything you create should always be with that market in mind, with the customer in mind, putting yourself in their shoes, being empathetic to their pains and problems and fears and frustrations and their wants and their dreams and their goals and their aspirations. Essentially, everything about marketing is about them. So how do you make marketing that's all about them? Well, fortunately, they're people, and people have been relatively well studied. Even though we have new research and new studies and new findings coming out all the time, the field of psychology, of human behavior, well, it's relatively deep. So when it comes to better understanding people, making better marketing, you really want to study psychology. Now, I appreciate giving you the advice to go out there and study psychology is kind of a big ask. So let me break it down into 4 specific areas I think you're going to find most relevant to a career in marketing. The field of behavioral economics is probably one of the most interesting fields I've ever studied, and it basically comes down to why people do what they do, why they buy what they buy, why they think what they think, why they make the decisions that they make. Naturally, the better you're able to understand all of these, the better you're going to be able to create marketing and messages, and really a business and a life that understands and evolves and adapts to these sort of baked-in principles of human behavior. On that note, another kind of subset of behavioral economics is consumer behavior, and the study of consumers and their behavior. See? Psychology doesn't need to be that complicated. Essentially, this field does exactly what it says it does, and by understanding, again, why people do what they do, why they buy what they buy, you're able to influence and inform and persuade them. Next up, we have perhaps the nerdiest of all of the fields of psychology around neuromarketing. Essentially, neuromarketing uses neuropsychology in order to present different study participants with different stimuli and situations, and then see how they react, or more accurately, how their brains react to what's being presented to them. When it comes to neuromarketing, this is a little bit of a deeper subject, so just a surface glance will do just fine. But just imagine hooking someone's brain up to a scanner, presenting them with all kinds of stuff, and then seeing how they react. It's fancy science stuff, but the findings that are coming out of this field are truly amazing. The last area to take a look into is less of a psychological field and more of a realm or a subtopic known as cognitive biases. What a cognitive bias is some kind of a mental shortcut, also known as a heuristic, which is where our brains make snap-second decisions to evaluate all of the crazy amounts of information around us. The thing is, most of the time, those snap decisions, those quick impulses that happen instantaneously, well, they're often wrong, if not at least a little bit flawed. An example of a cognitive bias would be something like anchoring, where the first number you hear or the first piece of information that you're given or your customer is given significantly impacts and influences all future information. For example, if I present something to you and I say, don't worry, it's not $1 million. In fact, it's only $7. Well, it's going to seem like a significantly better deal than if I say, look, it's not $1, it's $7, which is going to make it seem more expensive. Yep, that's basically anchoring, but there's over 100 of them that you may want to take a look into. It's fascinating stuff. Okay, let's move on to my next tip, which is content rules the world. If I had one piece of advice to give any new student to the field of marketing today, it would be this: make stuff. Starting today, right now. Make stuff. Now this kind of goes along with tip number 2. Pick yourself, which you may remember from earlier in the video. But I knew if I really wanted to succeed in marketing, I was going to need to take full ownership of my career and start making a plan to master my own marketing. Point is, one of the most valuable marketing skills in general for you to have and to create and develop, is the ability to create content. Basically, to make things, to tell stories, to write, to record, to share, to inspire, to motivate, to persuade, to convince, all of that. So, let's make some content. You could make a new website, you could start a new social media account, you could start a blog, you could create a podcast, you could start a YouTube channel, whatever it is that you find interesting and that inspires you. Like I said earlier, a marketing degree may be useful, but a portfolio that's loaded with experience and with reports and content and studies and videos or blogs or articles or all of the stuff that you could make, well, they're at least 10 times more valuable. If I was hiring a junior marketer and I had 2 people in front of me, one of which had a marketing degree and the other had a portfolio full of a YouTube channel and a blog and all kinds of content and designs and social media posts and all of that, it wouldn't even be close. So the only question then is, if you need to make content, what kind of content is going to be best? Well, if content marketing rules the world, then video is at the very top of that hierarchy. Now, this advice is pretty straightforward. The reality is if you have the ability, or at least the desire, or even the interest to learn how to make video, it is by far going to give you the best bang for your buck when it comes to marketing. The beauty is you can start by recording videos just from your phone and then uploading them to YouTube or to Instagram or to TikTok, and you can grow from there. You do not need a ton of crazy or expensive video equipment to get started. Seriously, the camera on the back of your phone will work just fine. Because here's the deal, people like video. Customers like video, even the social media networks themselves like video and go out of their way to actively promote it over other kinds of content. Okay, next point. And this one's really important, especially if you're just getting started and maybe feeling a little bit lost, a little bit overwhelmed. Great marketers aren't born, they're trained. You see, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to most things actually, nobody is born with the ability to create amazing, high-performing, high-converting, and incredibly profitable marketing campaigns right out of the gate. Marketing is just a skill, and a skill that can be learned and studied and practiced. And this is amazing news because it means no matter where you're at in your marketing journey right now, you can succeed. And to help you even more, I've linked up a video right here on how to start a career in digital marketing that I think you'll find really useful. So make sure to check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video. That is going to cost you both in tuition as well as an opportunity cost that you could have spent while earning. Now, for some people, it is absolutely the right decision. If you're the kind of person that needs a formal place, you need to sit